Welcome to Juicebox Sports, the number one podcast in the great state of Texas. I'm your host, Mario, and today we got big news from the ringside. There was a time when a loss in boxing might have spelled an end to the Jake Paul phenomena. Let's say Ben Askren beat him, or even Tyron Woodley in their first fight. Past 2 years would have been a very, very different view on Jake Paul. The YouTuber to boxing experiment might have been withered away before it had a chance to catch fire. But it didn't catch fire. And now, just moments after Jake Paul's first loss in boxing via split decision to Tommy Fury, the defeat doesn't really seem all that big of a deal. Paul, who is still just 26 years old, might have had more options now than ever. Even with his once perfect record now sitting at 6-1, context matters too. Paul wasn't knocked out or blown away. Actually, he was the one who scored the only knockout in the fight, sending Fury down in the 8th and final round. ESPN scored the bout a draw. It was a very close fight, and a rematch will likely sell well. Paul vs. Fury actually ended up gaining steam with 2 previous cancellations, and Fury is a bigger star now and after a win. Paul's substantial pride would likely point him into that direction. He owns a rematch clause, and Paul said in the ring after the fight he wants to exercise it. He will want to get that victory back and say he has beaten every man he has ever faced. The way he said he knocked out everyone he faced before a decision, a win over Anderson Silva. Is Paul and Fury 2 the best option though? Maybe not. Paul has lots of iron in the fire. Quite frankly, there is a real story to be told here. And fellow YouTuber KSI, both of them along with Jake Paul, kind of kicked off the influence turn boxer craze back in 2018. When KSI fought Logan in an amateur bout, KSI beat Logan in a pro rematch in 2019. Before younger brother Jake turned into a subgenre of its own by knocking out former MMA champion. Jake Paul and KSI have not stopped jawing at each other for the past few years, but a fight between them never really made too much sense until now. Paul has an undefeated streak in pro boxing matches, while KSI has racked up 3 knockout wins in exhibition last summer, including 2 wins in one night. KSI got his jollies on social media on Sunday with Paul losing, but Paul has at least been facing legitimate fighters, even if none was a real boxer until Fury. Paul and KSI will probably be the biggest money fight Paul can do it right now, especially if boxing matches with former UFC contender Nate Diaz, which ones look very promising, never comes out of fruition. A Diaz bout is definitely one Paul can revisit, but it's not nearly as appealing now with Paul coming off a loss. It's still marketable, though, absolutely.